Free to Be Me is a global program dedicated to strengthening the rights of all persons, regardless of their sexual orientation and gender identity. It advocates legal reform, fosters economic inclusion and support for key and marginalized populations. Free to Be Me is funded by Hivos Foundation and implemented in Enugu State and Southeast Nigeria by Access to Good Health Initiative. To tell us more about this program as it enters its fifth year is Chiamaka Nnamdi, who is Assistant Director Investigation, National Human Rights Commission, Enugu State Office, and Mr. Mbo Martin, Program Lead, Enugu State Agency for the Control of AIDS. Pleasure to have you once again.
Nice meeting you.
Nice having you. So this is our third, third time seeing.
This is the third time,
Yeah, so you're no longer an August visitor. Good morning and Happy New Year.
You're welcome.
And welcome to February.
You're welcome.
All right. So this Free to Be Me program has finally entered its fifth year. Since 2021, Free to Be Me has been running strongly. And now it's basically wrapping up or about to wrap up, seeing as it's already February. How would you rate success of this program since its inception? What have you been able to accomplish?
All right. Free to Be Me, it's actually a program that's actually targeting the marginalized group, okay, in the States. And they have actually gone ahead to make some level of achievements in the States, ranging from most achievements that they have made in the States are so cumbersome. For us, they have really done so much big in the States. I can quickly mention one or two things that they have been able to achieve in the States.
Right.
Number one is that they were able to develop a security safety document, which is also a guideline for the marginalized group, okay? And they have also been able to make some level of provisions, strengthening the capacity and also strengthening the well-being of these marginalized group. There are also some documentaries that's actually looking at rejection and acceptability of these communities. They were able to develop or they were able to produce, okay, a particular documentary that is it's already there in the field where people can actually look at these documentaries, actually looking at those people that have been marginalized, how they were being marginalized, how they were being treated, okay? And they have also produced a movie. There's a movie already. Yes, there's a movie already in air, okay, that is called Oparese. This movie is actually looking at how these particular marginalized group are being enshrined into things that they are not even part of, and they were actually brought in to be part of it, all right, negatively. And how they have also, that particular parents, they was also able to provide solution, okay, to the problems and the levels of marginalization that are being faced in the country, okay. And finally, the another achievement that they have made in the States is that they have also built an allied group. And this allied group is a consortium of both state governments, some parasites in the state government, okay, ranging from Ministry of Health. Okay, we have HIV units in Ministry of Health. We also have NSACA. Okay, we also have National Human Rights and the rest of them. These are consortiums of allies, okay, tailoring towards ensuring that this group, have a hearsay within the community.
All right, that's fantastic. Well, let's quickly come to you. Just a quick follow-up. People are watching this wondering, what are we talking about? Key and marginalized populations. Could you, put it in view? What do we mean by the key and marginalized groups in present day?
When you talk about the key and marginalized group, you are talking about, let me say, the minority group in our society. People who we often refer to them as the vulnerable group. Such people, most times their rights are usually violated because they don't, most times their voices are not heard. So these are the marginalized group. And what we do at the Commission is to, look at their rights when they are violated. Because when matters come to the Commission, we don't want to know whether you are a minority or you are a majority. We treat every file as a human being. So we don't want to know whether you are in the minority group or you are in the majority group. What we do is, if you get a complaint, we look at it and treat the issues raised in that complaint.
Just to shed more light, by marginalized key and marginalized, do we mean poor people, disabled people?
Okay, let me just quickly respond to that.
Great.
When you say marginalized group or key affected population, okay, you are looking at, for us in the context of health sector, these groups are, in fact, it's actually the health sector that couched that key population, all right? And those key population are consortium of men that have sex with men, female sex workers, people who inject drugs, people that are also in the custodial center, and also other unmentioned or unrecognized groups like the LGBTQAI+. All right? So all these ones are the ones that we refer to as key marginalized population.
All right. How would you say the key marginalized populations are currently faring in Nigeria, especially as we have laws that are prohibitive of this? Would you say that the Free to Be Me campaign has been able to accomplish a lot in terms of, advocating for their rights, despite the stiff laws against that behavior? Yes.
They have done their bits. You see, this response, okay, it is not actually a one-off response. It's a continuum. For Free to Be Me, they have done their bits, okay, by supporting the implementation of activities targeting the key population, typologies. All right. The states also, in their own angle, have also done their bits. But what we are saying in essence is that we should not relent. There is still much to be done.
Right.
You've talked about the law. The law is also there, being a sort of regimentation to certain things. And I also want to assure you that, let me quickly refer us back to the incidents, the emergence of HIV in Nigeria. That was dated back 1986, when we first, had the first case of HIV in Nigeria. And when we first had that first case of HIV in Nigeria, how did we even get to where we are? It is because of the level of marginalization that the people that have tested positive started having. So when they started having this level of marginalization, people now that have tested positive now begin to say, I cannot carry this thing alone. They now begin to spread it. The same concept is what I want us to have as of now. The key population, as far as HIV prevalence is concerned, they are the people that has up to 90% prevalence rate, 90% incidence rate of HIV in Enugu State. Okay? Hence, that is the case. We really need to program for these ones, and that is what Free to Be Me is doing. They want to ensure that these ones are programmed for, so that we don't leave them aside, because when you leave them aside, it becomes a problem. We begin to have a surge of HIV, because most of their attributes, most of the things that pertains to the key population that I've mentioned before now, okay, are some of the things that can fuel HIV. And if you don't bring these ones closer, if you begin to separate them, if you begin to disarm them, if you don't want to create a safe space for them to thrive, honestly, we are going to go back to that years of 1986 to the year of 2022, when we have the highest surge of HIV in Enugu State. So we are linking this thing to health. For me, I'm linking it to health because I'm a health worker. All right, we are linking it to health because if we don't do much more, what Free to Be Me is doing may be dashed on the ground if we don't really want to fortify what they are doing. Yeah. So a lot needs to be done, okay, to ensure that these ones, okay, have access to the community, have access to every other person. You don't need to discriminate against them. You don't need to marginalize them. You don't need to, put them by the side and say that you are putting this law, you are putting this law. There is good, it is nice to put laws, yes. All right? But when you put laws that will affect the general population, or the people we call the PABA, PABA are the people that are affected by AIDS. There are people that are infected. Those ones that are living with HIV. But there are people that are affected. So those ones that are affected are all of us, because we are talking about it. As far as we are discussing AIDS, issues around it, that means we are. So we are trying to make sure that HIV prevalence in Enugu State does not grow. And how do we achieve that? We need to support this key population. We need to support this marginalized group to ensure that HIV is brought to the nearest minimum in Enugu State.
All right. So let's still on HIV. I think it was last week we had this conversation and we saw what happened in America, where President Donald Trump, cut foreign aid to third world countries and all of that. Even though it has been reversed And then this brought a lot of, conversations. A lot of people were talking about how this was going to affect, people with HIV. And then we started to hear things like, oh, we should hold our government accountable. And me, I was like, exactly. Remember we say hold our government accountable. I always ask this question, how do we hold them accountable? These are people's lives, we're talking about here. And then we know that, this funding helps a lot of people, to, especially people living with HIV, with the treatments, the drugs, every single thing that they need. What was your reaction to it?
It was a huge setback to HIV response in Enugu State. Currently, free to be media implement, like I've told you, they are doing the little one that they can do. All right. And let me also tell us, the proclamation of US president, affected HIV implementation across Nigeria as a whole. Then coming down to Enugu State here, we have a lead partner in the state that is called Caritas Nigeria. Sorry, I'm mentioning the name, but that's actually what is it's already open in the air. They are the lead partner in the state. And this particular process of what Prompt mentioned actually affected the activity implementation, their own activity implementation. And they are, why we call them the lead partner is that they are in charge of HIV response across all the respective facilities in Enugu State. Every facility you talk about, all the secondary facilities. So within the confines of HIV issues only, they are actually in charge. Now you can think around, now they are no more implementing in the state what is happening to the indigent cases. We have indigent cases, those that have already tested positive, those that are coming to pick up their drugs, and when they come to the facility, they tell them, sorry, the drugs are not there. In fact, we have a current case on Friday where somebody coming to the facility, one of the facilities to come and pick drugs. They tell the person, sorry, we can only give you 1 month. Well, these are people that, not under normal circumstances, they are normally given up to 3 months. Under normal circumstances, we are given up to 6 months, even 1 year. But now you are telling the person that is coming from, maybe the person is coming from all the way from Uzo 1. And the person transports him or herself down to Enugu here, Enugu town here, to come and pick up a drug. That will last only for 1 month. So you can see the effect. It will also affect even the lives of those people that have taken positive, because they will also be spending much money, going and coming back fluently to make sure that they pick up their drugs. So the effect is actually enormous. Now, for us that are in the state, for Enugu State Agency for the Control of AIDS, even the Caritas Nigeria, they support us in activity implementation. And they have told us that they cannot support. Are they going to support with their hands? They're going to support with money. So the funding is no more there. And it's affecting every HIV implementation in the state. There is no cascade of HIV implementation in the state that is left, as far as Caritas Nigeria is no more implemented. All right. So this is a very huge gap for us.
All right. Now, coming back to the issue of HIV and AIDS, what factors do you think contribute to the prevalence? Would you say that the non-acceptance of the LGBTQI community has fostered this increase? Or would you say that the activities of LGBTQI could actually accelerate the contracting of HIV and AIDS within these key population groups?
Now, we are not even talking about, yes, we can talk about LGBTQI, but they are not actually the focus in this part, in the context of what we are discussing. All right? Yes, the focus on context of what we are discussing is the key population. All right. And the key population is those ones that I've mentioned to you. Also trickle down to the LGBTQI.
Yes, well, because I would like us to focus on the LGBTQI, even if just for a moment. And, how the HIV prevalence, bounces off between, is it being exacerbated by the stigmatization they suffer, or are their activities actually exacerbating the prevalence of this?
The prevalence of HIV, like from the survey that we have done in 2018, that was the 2018. That was actually the last survey that we did with regards to the key population. All right. In that 2018, even though the LGBTQI was not captured in that particular process, all right, but we cannot deny the fact that the activities of LGBTQI is always, present in whatever that we do. All right, because they have formed a consortium, they have formed a community. All right, and we know that they are existing. And we are, somehow using the platform of other key population to support them. All right? We use the platform of other key population to support them. And also, like the platform you have mentioned, the Hivos Foundation is also one of the platforms that support them. And their activities, if not checked, it is also the same thing that happened to the other typologies of the key population will also happen to them. because their activities can also fuel the HIV prevalence in the Enugu State. And we need to checkmate that.
All right. Now, speaking about, the community, would you say that despite the laws and all of that, that basically restricts activities of this community, would you say that within the Southeast region and perhaps across Nigeria, holistically speaking, that there are communities of these key populations that are currently being disenfranchised from the essential health services that they should be entitled to? What would you say is the prevalence of the community?
Obviously, these communities that we're mentioning, they are disfranchised. Yeah, that one is not negotiable. Because, in fact, I know that, like, with regards to HIV prevalence in Enugu State, there are some of them, for example, that has a particular event that is called anawats. I'm just using an example. Anawats is not treated in every hospital. Do you understand me now?
Yes.
You can't go to any facility and you treat anawats. Rather, because of that, that is why we created a safe zone for them. And that safe zone is called OSS.
Okay.
One-stop shop. And that one-stop shop is one of the facility that is being supported by the Trump administration, I mean the PEPFAR project that is now, doused. All right. Now, that OSS is closed, locked down now, like as I'm talking to you currently now. So these marginalized groups, they cannot even access all those things. And these anawats that I'm talking to you about, it can only be treated in that particular OSS. All right. So there are certain things that are so much personal to them. All right. Among all the key population, there are certain things that are so much personal to them. And some of those things that are personal to them are being done in that OSS, where they have safe space, to discuss openly
what
on
they're
certain things that has to do. Going to the general hospital at times, all right, you may have some level of stigma. I'm not saying for sure, all right? But we have also recorded some level of stigma. But when you come to that OSS, for this particular community we are talking about, they are so fragile. There are things you will do, they will just interpret it that you're already stigmatizing them. And any iota of stigma will give birth to at least 3 steps of HIV prevalence. Because yes, when you stigmatize someone that is already at the verge of being stigmatized, the person is already prone. And anything you do to that person, the person will capitalize on that and go and spread the HIV virus. Not minding whatever. So the level of harm we are raising for this particular key population, we should actually look at it so that we save the lives of every other person that is sexually active.
So in the same breath, how can we foster inclusive spaces for this key population?
Yes, that is what I've said. Inclusive spaces for them is via this particular program we are doing here. That is one. And another one is the already existing OSS that I've mentioned. Okay? That is where you foster inclusive spaces. And also, we have also, the Hivos Foundation has supported AGI to develop an advocacy tool that is targeting various communities. All right? And that advocacy tool that is targeting various communities is in the public domain. So we use that particular advocacy tool, okay, to pay advocacy to various government establishments and other stakeholders for their own buy-in into the AGI implemented activities within the confines of HIV response.
All right. Let's now come to you, Mr. Nnamdi. Now, you painted a quick picture of the inner warts that some of them go through, and they're unable to, get treatment as a result of the, just basic stifling of what they should actually have access to, which still happens in the Southeast. So just to paint a clearer picture now, Mr. Nnamdi, what are some other issues, the explicit challenges that these key populations face, especially when it comes to their health and their search for safe spaces to disclose issues? Because we understand that people speak a lot. There are certain issues you have, you just don't want to go to the general hospital to start talking because you don't know who the doctor might disclose it to, whereas it's against the principle, but they still just don't want that kind of information out there. What are other issues, even if it's beyond health, that these key populations face and they're currently unable to access as a result of the society that we live in?
They face a lot of challenges, like the issue of discrimination and stigmatization. Most times, because of the fear of stigmatization, they don't like reporting, denial of their rights to health.
Yes.
They don't like reporting it because they don't know, the right person to talk to. Because you can only report to somebody when you have that confidence that the person will
Do something
keep your
about it.
secret. And it's only when you authorize the person to spread the information that the person should do it. So instead of reporting, they prefer to keep quiet. Most times they say, let us leave it to God. God will take care. And you see the person dying, the person, the health challenges deteriorating. So that's one of the challenges they face. And most times they don't report because they feel that there is no way the organization they are reporting to can help them, achieve what they want to achieve. So they prefer to keep quiet. But in National Human Rights Commission, there is this guarantee for, making it possible for people to report. For example, if you bring a complaint, it stays within the commission. Nobody can go outside, the staff cannot go outside and talk about it. There is this issue of confidentiality that is guaranteed. And maybe that's why the volume of complaints we receive as a result of discrimination about this key population in Enugu State has increased.
All right. Speaking about the discrimination, could you paint a picture, maybe what you've been told by people that have visited the commission about the kind of discrimination that they encounter? Can you just, retell a story? Let's really understand the challenges of these marginalized populations.
Like we have had, some complaints about maybe people going to access their drugs, like you said. The utterances from the healthcare providers.
This is in the case of HIV and AIDS, for instance. All right.
The utterances of the healthcare providers, they see people who have HIV as people who are close to death, that there is nothing they can really do for them. So when they experience this kind of challenges, they usually come to report because their right to health has been violated. So these are the type of challenges they get. And when they get such challenges, they usually come to the commission to report. There are still some other ones like, people within this marginalized community, not, enjoying what they are supposed to enjoy from their family, like the issue of inheritance. Yes, they face a lot of challenges. They are not allowed to inherit what belongs to them because maybe they are in the minority group. So these are some of the challenges. And when you look at it, it's very, very painful. Just because you are in the marginalized group, that's why you cannot have access. You cannot have the right of, what you should have because of your predicament. And it's very, very painful.
So then what does the commission do? How does the commission respond to these issues?
Okay, just recently, the Executive Secretary of National Human Rights Commission made a statement that when files come to our office, we see the files as human beings. So when we receive such complaints, the commission will first of all investigate to find out whether the person's rights were actually violated. Then after the investigation, then the commission will take the necessary action to redress the wrong done to that person.
Right.
I want to ask, still in the same line, what do you do about awareness? I know, yes, this conversation is, this conversation we're having now is like one, but do you go deeper? What does Free to Be Me do, especially in terms of awareness? Do you go deeper? Do you go to the places? Because I remember you listed some of the key marginalized areas. You said female sex workers and all of that. Do you go to the places where they usually camp? What do you do about the awareness? Is it a bit more thorough than, having these conversations?
Yes, and just in line with that, do you think that sex workers, when found, should be arrested? Do you think that's a way of handling the situation?
Well, Nigeria has a law, and the commission believes in maintaining the laws of the land. So the issue of arresting sex workers is left with the law enforcement agencies. But what we are saying is, at the commission, even in the custodial centers, you find out that the inmates, they equally have rights. And that's why most times the commission pays visits to the custodial centers to find out whether their rights are being protected. So that one, the issue of the commercial sex workers is for the
law enforcement.
For the law enforcement. But what we are saying is that when arresting them or when treating them, that their rights must be respected.
Yes. All right, let's come back to you. I know you have a lot to contribute to this. Go ahead.
Just to follow up to what you have said, okay? Currently in Enugu State, you see, like the issues around this key population, it is something that involves most of the stakeholders, okay? We've also gone ahead to ensure that we have a very good relationship with Nigerian police. In fact, there's a particular division of Nigerian police that is called PACA, Police Action Committee on AIDS. Okay, that's a unit that is existing in state CID. So that unit is a unit that we have been partnering with. So when there are issues around arrests of female sex workers, arrest of person that inject drugs, arrest of MSM, arrest of whosoever that is a marginalized group member or community member, all right? Those ones, the Police Action Committee on is being linked up, okay? And they will ensure that, you know, that particular issue is actually resolved. So this is more like a synergy, all right, towards ensuring that we don't raise the hammer and hit it the way we want to hit it. Because when we hit it so hard, like I've mentioned here, the reactions will be so huge.
Of course,
it will be so huge,
yes. Now,
well, you know, we're all human beings.
Yes.
We're all human beings. There are certain things you will do to someone, the person will recall that, after all, I'm not the architect of this problem. That is actually why I recall you back to 1986 when HIV started. That is how HIV was fueled. When you deal with people, either with culture or with your stigma stick or with your discrimination stick, you deal with that person. Okay? When you deal with that person will recall that, after all, I'm not the architect of this thing. So why wouldn't I go out and share this thing?
That's very true.
That is actually where we are.
That's very true. Now, let's also bring it back to the correctional facilities. We understand that some people who are battling HIV, AIDS, they get arrested, and then some of them don't have access to medication, and then they die. What do you have to say about this? What can be done to ensure that even people who are in correctional facilities have access to medication, even for those who may not be able to afford it any longer?
Now, the medication currently, like I speak with you, is free. Okay, Nigeria government has made it so free. In Enugu here, it is free. All right. Now, in the custodial center that we mentioned, we also have a cascade. The OSS that I've mentioned to you, all right, they have a facility inside that Nigeria Correctional Center, where all those ones that are tested positive, they're already on drugs. All right. Both the masculine and the feminine. So no one, they are not having, the only problem, the only distinction between us and them is the wall. Okay, I mean the wall, the fence of this thing that demarcates them from the But apart from that, every level of medication, because they are tested positive, they are actually receiving it. But currently, because of this pronunciation of Trump, obviously, it's going to be a very huge. And currently they gave the Nigeria government 3 months. So within that, between now till 3 months, now talk about the level of HIV surge we are going to have. If you have been on drugs and you stop taking your drugs, normally in HIV treatment, we have what we call first line, second line, and third line. So most of the clients or most of the indigent cases, they are in first line. Their first line means the first drug dose. They have remained there. But when you are no more consistent in taking your drugs, either because it is no more out of stock or whatever, you may graduate to second line.
Yes.
Do you understand me? And when you graduate to second line, that means that your drugs regimen will also change.
I think, yes, exactly.
And if you don't take time, if you have been in second line and this problem happens, you graduate to third line. And currently in Enugu State, there is no place where the regiments of third line is being treated.
Yes.
You will not be flown to Lagos. So what the American government has actually done is actually going to affect, we're actually going to see the effects maybe after the 3 months.
After the 3 months.
If nothing is being done.
The Nigerian government, now speaking about something being done, while we round this up, what are your expectations from the Nigerian government? We keep on carrying our problems to the US, and the US continues to help us. We're just there with our hands stretched out, cap in hand, like Nnamdi said. What should the government be doing as this strict timeline has been given by the US government? What are your expectations, and what's next for free to be me, seeing as we're now in 2025? What's next? You can tie those two
Okay,
together.
two questions you asked.
Yes.
First one is, what am I thinking that Nigeria government
Yes.
should do? What I'm thinking that they should do is that there are staff that are working in the facility that are being employed by Caritas Nigeria. Those staff should be placed on their normal salary. Let them continue coming to work, because they are actually the people that are dealing with the indigent cases directly. I don't know whether you get me now. They deal with indigent cases directly. So those ones should Nigeria government should find a way to ensure that they are placed back to their salary, because those ones I'm talking about, they are no more in the facilities. All of them has gone, because American government has told every person to leave. So nobody to take care of these indigent cases, including the key population we are talking about.
All right. Now, bringing it back to you very quickly, Mr. Namdi, what do you have to say to Nigerians who currently have the habit of stigmatizing people when they hear that they have HIV and AIDS, or when they hear that they are a part of LGBTQI community in any other part of the world? What do you have to say to those people that have refused to accept that key populations exist and that they have needs?
Well, what I have to say to them is that, one thing we should understand is that if care is not taken, for example, let's talk about their rights. When you don't protect their rights, when you continue to violate their rights, just like my colleague said, they will go on exposing themselves. Because, for example, if you label me that I am this or I am that, by the time you know it, I will start, saying I will not die because of this. Another person should equally be a victim. So my message to them is that they are humans. They have their rights. Their rights should be respected, irrespective of their sexual identity, irrespective of what they believe in. They are human beings like us. Do you understand? Because they are humans, for the fact that they are breathing. Because one thing about right to life is that before your right to life is taken away, it must be by the court of competent jurisdiction.
Yes.
So for the fact that the court has not ruled that the person should die, or that the person should, be put in jail, such people's rights should be respected. And let me tell us one thing. I want those people, those marginalized groups, when their rights are violated, they should come and report. Because when they report, one thing about Nigerians is that if you don't punish somebody that has violated somebody's rights, it will not deter other people from, committing the same offense. So that's why the issue of deterrence comes in. So they should report about their human rights violations, so that those who violate such rights will be punished, so that it will serve as a deterrent to other people who want to violate such rights.
Thank you so much for your valued input on the show this morning. And we hope that we continue to see marked strides in trying to ensure that people are respected, their rights are respected, irrespective of sexual orientation, irrespective of what it is that they have, that their human rights are priority. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.